I'm going to teach you how to learn the foot brake in 30 days. Pull the clutch in, give it some gas, brake. Just do that. Just do that about 30 minutes every day, or not every day, like 4 or 5 times a week for about 30 days, and then foot brake's going to become second nature, and then you can work on riding out wheelies really easily, because you know you always go back to that foot brake to bring you down. The extended version of that is you want to find a preferably flat lot. This isn't great because it angles into these drains, but anyway, dead stop, foot right over the brake. I always like to give it a couple taps, just so I know it's there, make sure my foot's on it and I'm not off to this side like that. You don't want to be off here or back here. Get it over it, hover over it, and be ready to use it. There's an adjuster behind the rear set where you can raise and lower the height of the pedal. So you go from a dead stop like this, get this foot up here, couple taps, check, make sure you're over it, put the bike in, have the bike in first gear, you got clutch in, couple taps ready, and then clutch is in, you give it some gas, brake, brake, and you just repeat this process. I mean, like, I wasn't even, in the beginning, I wasn't even riding it out like that. It was literally just up, down for 3 weeks. And then as time progressed, when I felt like I was using the rear brake out of instinct, you know, when it got too high for me, then I started to add a little more gas. You know, I would clutch it up. You basically want to clutch in, gas, pop the clutch, brake, and repeat that process. And if you have more balls than I did, you can give it more gas, bring it higher, and you want to essentially do that gradually. You want to add more gas on your clutch up to bring it higher and higher until you you'll reach balance point when, you know, this becomes kind of eye level. You're seeing like this out of the bottom of your eyes, means you're getting close if you're looking straight ahead. But basically you just clutch up and brake and repeat that process, and you'll learn foot brake that way, because your body will automatically go to the foot brake and use that anytime you become uncomfortable. That's literally the best way to learn how to use the foot brake. It's gonna feel like you know, I'm not making a lot of progress, I'm not getting any wheelies, but that's gonna save you from looping. You know, everybody asking, you know, I need tips on how to wheel, how to get it up higher. It's honestly useless to get it to balance point unless you know what the foot brake does and how to actively use it when you're in a wheelie. Because otherwise, you're gonna get to balance point, you're gonna be like, oh shit, take your feet off, because that's just natural, and then you're gonna loop. I did that. I'm gonna say 1.5 times, because when I was putting in braking miles, I went to a lot and I was like, oh, I was like, I'm gonna give it all right here. So I revved it up, I don't know, maybe I was 6K, revved it up, popped it, came too high, foot came off, I like slipped off the back. I think I hit my calf on this, but I held onto the bike, and just with one hand I kind of like ballerinaed it, and then got a little bit of scratches on the titanium and stuff. But that was the half loop, and then I did have one you know, full loop where I had clutched up, and this is when I wasn't keeping the throttle open. I let it go, and I had got it high enough, but because I was giving it no gas, it tipped over to the side, and I didn't learn how to counter that yet. So it just kind of, I don't know, it was 10 miles an hour maybe, and it just fell over that way.
We came up on dirty
There we go. You literally just have to repeat that process of give it clutch in, have your foot over the brake, tap it a couple times, make sure it's there. That was a habit that I made, was I always checked. And that was like my set. I would always go, the way I have my brake set, this is kind of how I like to have my throttle hand flat like this. So I would always do like the 2 fingers here, because I would use the front brake to come to the stop. So I would have this, then I'd come set, check, and then gas, pop clutch, and then once it comes up, brake immediately. And kept repeating that. And, you know, like I said, gradually add more gas to get it higher and higher as you go, as, you know, you become more comfortable with it. But make sure you're hitting the brake every single time you pop it up. That's the only way foot brake is going to become ingrained into the back of your head, where it becomes second nature. Basically, once you're good with, after like 21 practice sessions, I think that's usually how long it is to establish a habit or something like that. But once you go like 21 times, you know, 3 weeks, you can start leaving the gas open. And, you know, I don't have, this is a quarter turn throttle. I can't tell you, you know, turn your wrist this many degrees and that's the sweet spot for wheelies. When I clutch in, because it's a quarter turn, I kind of go basically full throttle to bring the revs up. Just boom, clutch, and then I roll it off to, I don't know, like that much, a quarter, like a little bit. There's like, you just need a little bit once you're in balance point to keep yourself going. And then, you know, if you brake too much, just a tad bit of throttle. Don't chop. That's the second biggest thing that'll lead to loops, even if you kind of have the foot brake down, is if you're chopping throttle and you send it back way quicker than you can react with your foot and catch yourself. I had the opposite problem where this wrist was stand locked. Like, it was there, and then like that, and I just literally kept this hand as locked as possible, and you just slowly added throttle. And if you ever watch any Stuntlat C times, maybe in the next like 10 or so, when I start riding them out, you'll see that this wrist barely moves. This one, you know, you'll find that sweet spot. You'll clutch in, rev it up, drop the clutch, and it becomes just a habit of where your roll off is. You know, sometimes I shut it too much and give it a little more gas and just correct. It's basically a trial and error thing. There's no set, you know, amount, how much you know, bounce you need. You don't really need much. You want to lean back with it, you know, that'll help bring it up. And mod wise, the only like sprocket thing that I learned on was I dropped down to the 14 tooth because it came up a little easier than the 15. But no, I mean, besides the easy pull clutch, I mean, you could do it with the stock clutch lever, but nothing besides the straight up pump. There was no, I don't have springs or any of that. So far my clutch is pretty good, I think. I'm on a 1437 now, but because I tend to stick to the lots. But yeah, I mean, so I mean, I just recap timeline wise. After that first 3 weeks of just clutch in, basically the clutch ups and then immediately brake. After that, I started to add a little more gas. I kept it open a little bit, and I couldn't keep it in balance point. So once I figured out, you know, I'm chasing now, it was just breaking down. I didn't try to chase a lot. It was the clutch up, left the throttle open, okay, we're not at balance point, bring it down. And you start to experiment, like I said, trial and error thing. And then you can add a little more gas and see what keeps it there. And, you know, once you're in balance point, it's literally, I don't close throttle. I mean, maybe one of the expert people in the stunt game might tell me I'm wrong here, but I basically leave it cracked in that, you know, sweet spot to stay in balance point, and then my brake is what brings me down. You know, if you use the brake, you're pretty much, you'll never loop out if you use it. You can always come back, because you see people scrape the 12 bar and they bring it back. So never give up on your brake, basically, unless, you know, you didn't take care of it and you have fade or whatever, and it's non-operational. But yeah, and then you'll ride it out a little bit, and you'll see if you're not at balance point, bring it down. Don't chase it. You're just wasting time. You could just do another clutch up there and try again. So then you'll ride it out. After that 3-week period, you're riding a little bit because you left the gas open. And then after that, I think I started to end up wheeling the whole lot. Maybe, I think around week 4 was like half the lot. Week 5, I got the full lot, essentially. That 4th week, I was able to stay at balance point, but I was working on my lateral or side-to-side balance and keeping the wheelie up. And the flatter of a spot you have, the less of an issue that's going to be. You know, as long as you get that foot brake ingrained, it just becomes experimentation after that point and figuring out staying at balance point and keeping them going longer and longer. And then PSI, I know everybody asks about that. I run, I think 13. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't checked. That's pretty comfy for me. That's really all I can say on that issue. And don't give up. That's probably the most cliche but big thing. Like, there were days that I was pissed because I was like, oh man, sack up here. Like, you should be giving it more gas. You should be getting the bike up. This was when I had the 15 tooth too. That was even harder. But like, you can do it. It just takes more oomph to get it up. But yeah, there's gonna be bad days. You're gonna have good days. Usually, try and end your session on a good clutch up, or you rode it out just a tad, and just something that you were proud of what you practiced, so you're motivated to come back next time and be like, okay, I can better. I know I was able to do this. Now I want to better it this time. See what I can do. It really isn't too difficult to learn how to wheelie this thing. Footbrake has a bunch of tricks you can unlock if you master it. Like, you're not going to be able to coast if you don't know how to use Footbrake. Any sit down thing, not going to be able to do. One-handers, not going to be able to do that. Hand drags, not going to be able to do that if you don't learn Footbrake. Staggers. There's just a bunch of any sit down variation and coasters. If you want to shift from first to second, you're gonna have to learn Footbrake. If you don't want to loop, coasters first, and then shifting from first to second. It's a crucial thing. I mean, you can skip all the sit-down variation tricks and go straight to a handbrake if you really want to. I mean, it doesn't take that long to learn Footbrake. Like I said, I started April 1st, and June 15th I was able to wheelie the whole lot, like at balance point with Footbrake. And that's April, May, 2.5 months, but it was 30 some practice sessions, just because of April, March in Chicago is still pretty cold when you have to go at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night to the lot. It's probably like 30 degrees. If you got a truck and you can haul your Grom, no excuse. Like, I had to ride there, so it's just a pain in the ass to layer up. And some days I was like, okay, I don't want to go today. It's too cold, or rain or whatever, or I was just busy. So you got to put in the work. One lot session a week probably ain't gonna cut it if you want to progress relatively fast. I put in at the beginning April, March, when it was cold, twice a week, but I would go like on a Wednesday, Saturday, and then for whatever reason, for the reasons I listed prior, I wouldn't go until the next Thursday or Friday. So there was like a 5-6 day window in between, and that's just it's a little too long in between. You might start to forget in your head like how it felt to wheelie in the last session and what you had gotten done. So just I would say, if you can, 3 to 5 times a week, and spend the majority of those days at like half hour to an hour, no more. If you're like, maybe one day you can't make it, I want to go for 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes, and just clutch up brake, do that drill, and you'll get the foot brake. I'm telling you, it doesn't take that long. Just put in the time to practice that drill, and you got it. And then you'll be able to do stuff like this. Slow it down. That's all foot brake.
Hottest stash in the carpet. Yeah, we trapping out apartments.